Hello, and welcome to Of the People. I'm Robert Chernin. Thank you so much for joining us again. Do you sometimes feel like you're caught in a time warp? I mean, CRT, DEI, all the other acronyms for LGBTQ. It dawns on me that this is history repeating itself. Being older, I feel like I'm stuck in the 1960s. That's the battle. It's just got different names. And I was looking through some of my old files because I go back a long ways doing this. And I found a piece that I did when Trump was first in office and the country was losing their mind, or not the country, but certainly the liberals and the sort of the radical feminists, et cetera, et cetera. And it really felt at the time, now this has got to go back, 8 years? And we just finished Obama. So I want to play for you to show you that this battle's been going on a long time, right? Trump versus the 1960s. We're going to play a little slice for you. President Trump versus the 1960s, or so it seems to me. Because when I watch the news these days, I swear that I'm back in 1968. Because that was really the last time that there was this much self-destructive, violent protest in the country. Remember the 60s? It was anti-war, anti-authority, anti-police, and anti-American, much like it is now. Sounds a lot like today. This time, however, there's no tune in, turn on, and drop out. There's no flower power, and sadly, no free love, as there was in the 60s. Today's protests are obviously much different in many respects. And what there really are, when you see through all the smokescreen, it's really nothing about changing society. It's about keeping the entrenched entitlement that the progressives have enjoyed for 8 years under President Obama. It's not about changing at all. It's about staying the hard left course that the country's been on for the last 8 years. Now, the mainstream media, they'd have you believe that this is all about how angry the people are and what a bad person or president Donald Trump is. The truth is, what we're really witnessing, in my opinion, is the final chapter in the battle for the heart and soul of America. It's the last dying gasp of aging hippies and secular progressives from the 1960s. By the way, we used to call them communist and socialist, which I'm sure is politically incorrect. These are the people that came of age in the 60s. And the angry mobs that the media is so fixated on really is just today's youth being misled by a bunch of secular progressive globalist beatniks, as far as I can tell, in their last grasp to hold on to power. It's vintage Saul Alinsky and rules for radicals. And when you look, right, what are we witnessing on the campuses, in the streets, in front of the White House, and elsewhere across the country is directly connected to the radical protests that were first spawned by the youth in the 1960s. There used to be the Weather Underground in Bel Airs. I know you're out there somewhere. Remember the Weather Underground, SDS, Students for a Democratic Society, and the Black Panthers. Now we have Occupy Wall Street, MoveOn.org, and Black Lives Matters. I mean, nothing's changed. There were radical leftist student groups in the 60s, and there are radical leftist groups today. The real difference is that in the 60s, there was no internet and no social media to fuel that mob rule mentality that you see today, but not in the 60s. Today, it permeates everything. You know, they use buzzwords, right? Racism, bigotry, hate crime, terms that are not only inaccurate, but they're irresponsible and needlessly inflammatory. See, what they really mean is they will not accept any policy, outcome, or conversation that deviates one iota from their dogmatic orthodoxy. When they speak of tolerance and when they speak of diversity, what they really mean is they're only tolerant of others who think like they do and act like they do, and their only embrace of diversity is based on non-white skin color and country of origin. Tell me again who the racists are here? One needs to look no further. Remember that women's march they just had in society? Women's march, except all women were invited, except, surprisingly, not those who were pro-life. Big shocker there. So the culmination of the far-left progressive ascendancy to the halls of power was, of course, Barack Hussein Obama, who ushered in an 8-year reign that the progressive haven't seen for a century, since Woodrow Wilson, right, a century ago, and opened the door. President Obama did. He pushed class warfare through his hard left economic policies, all the while stoking the fires of civil unrest, right? I mean, to a level nobody's seen since the 60s. When was the last time police and law enforcement officers were openly targeted for assassination? I mean, think about that. President Obama's selective application of the law and his embrace of groups like Black Lives Matters directly attributed to the erosion of the public trust in law enforcement. And if race was involved, oh boy, if race was involved, who was always the first one to point out just who to blame was, right? Thank you, President Obama. So that was 2016. I don't have the exact date, but nothing has really changed other than the woke left, right? Who now control culture. So we are now the counter-revolutionaries, believe it or not, right? 1960s, they were the counter-revolutionaries, right? Angela Davis, which we talked about with Dr. James Lindsay, and the direct line to Barack Obama, right, and his presidency, and the division and the divisiveness and every way to, I mean, what they've done is they've replaced, like traditional communism was class warfare. Now that's not the root. The root is race warfare, and everything's through that prism. But again, you're seeing now the radicals of the 60s, who I still think are nothing more than, the hippies of the 60s that now control education and the other culture, right? Playing this through. So nothing has changed. But the difference is, I think America's tired and we're starting to fight back. More on that later in the show. Folks, we'll be right back with the main segment of the show. Stay tuned. Hello, welcome back to Of the People. I'm Robert Chernin with
Ericka Redic.
Thank you for joining us again, folks. So, Ericka, we are the counterculture. It never really dawned on me that we're the counterculture, but we really are the counterculture. I mean, think about it. So, our boy Oliver Anthony, not only does he have the most downloads on Apple, but he hit the Billboard Top 100s chart.
Ooh-wee. Nice.
Right? I don't know if he's number one, but he's up there. And maybe, Lord Benjamin, you can figure out where he is. But that shows you the resistance to all of this. Because juxtaposed to that, guess what else is going on?
Tell me.
Masks are back.
Wait, what? Like the stupid COVID paper masks that never worked in the first place?
Well, I don't mean Halloween masks.
Why are masks back?
So there's a college in Georgia, in Atlanta, that just is now requiring kids and its faculty to wear masks, not because there's been any cases of COVID, but because they've heard that
they don't want to look at your ugly face.
Well, first of all, look. So Dr. Bruce, Dr. Bruce Abramson, who's been on the show, right? And my face is not ugly. I'm going right by that comment. Thank you very much. Okay. We'll see who has the last laugh here.
Not your ugly face, but, like the royal you.
Well, I thought it was the royal. I thought it was the royal we, but we'll go there. So if you remember, Dr. Bruce Abramson said that he actually sees masks as sort of a religious garb, right? That's forced upon you by this new religion of wokeism. Yeah. And that's an interesting thing, but more tertiary, which is this college in Atlanta, and I can pull it up real quick. So the college in Atlanta, let's see, is called, where's my college in Atlanta? There he is. So this is the Morris Brown College began classes last week and require all students to wear masks and employees. Quote, officials say there have been no confirmed COVID-19 cases among its students, but they have received reports from other schools in the Atlanta University Center. So they're back. So it's not like we haven't done enough damage to our children last time around, but now they're going to try to do this a second time. And I'm just thinking that there's a lot of fight left in this country. They're not going to take it anymore.
No, I think there have been too many studies at this point that have come out that showed not only were masks not effective at all, they were actually harmful and worse off. I don't understand how any university is getting away with mandating something that has now been proven to be ineffective and in some cases harmful.
Excuse me, when did facts ever matter to the Democrats? They've never argued facts. They've always argued emotion. And by the way, I'll give you something else, right? The Biden administration is buying, there's now evidence that the Biden administration is buying COVID-19 equipment and already hiring pandemic, quote, safety protocol enforcers.
What? I'm sorry. Excuse me?
You got to keep up. This is quick.
What?
I mean, yeah. So basically what this is, and by the way, your friend, Dr. James Lindsay, is all over Twitter and social media warning about this as well, that they're going to try the same crap again come the winter time in an effort to, again, cow the public into, following. And, again, they're going to try to curtail liberties and they're going to extend it as far as they can. I don't know this for a fact. I'm not a fortune teller, right? Which I guess wouldn't be facts, but you get the idea. So masks are back, folks.
That's what I heard, that they are prepping for lockdowns again. And I was like, who's prepping for that? Who's going to fall for that nonsense? Anybody at this point who goes along with any more lockdowns, masks, vaccine mandates, or any of that stuff, it's like, you are in a bubble. You are an ill-informed, uneducated person, because at this point,
wait a minute. Don't insult everybody, because fear works, right? That's what this is. This is fear-based to control everyone. But let's not forget.
Yeah, but
the real cost
information that's come out. I mean, I don't know how you can still think any of this stuff is effective.
Right. Look, I get it. And folks, go to our website. You'll see a video we put together on the real cost of lockdowns. It's about a 30-second video. But the bottom line is that the cost of lockdowns to our children, to our society, to our freedoms, Ericka, they're not going to do it. I mean, they're going to try it again. I think that's a bridge too far. We'll see what happens. But I'm warning everybody, they're coming. Now, let's move on to something else, because the other thing I want to talk about is this whole culture war thing. So I made a list of all the different areas that our culture, as we traditionally understood it, are being attacked. So let me read you the list and let me see if I'm missing anything. Okay. So education is under attack. We know that. Fiscal policy, right? We just got downgraded, right? And then the federal, the budget deficit that we have, right? Racism, obviously, identity politics now rules everything.
Terrible.
The military is being weakened. The media is now in cahoots, for lack of a better term, with the establishment, because they are the establishment. Yeah. There's attack on the courts and legitimacy. There's the weaponization of all aspects of the legal system when they're not defunding it, right? And then there's freedom of expression or free speech, freedom of assembly, which is all under attack. So when you look at these different areas, this is a culture. I mean, how do you say we're not at war?
I don't know. The only way you can say that is if you are disengaged, I think, from any of the processes. And I do know a ton of people who don't pay any attention to politics. They are not online. They do not watch the news. I wonder how many of our listeners out there, how much feedback I've gotten, as an example, from friends of ours, people who watch the show, listen to the podcast, check out the radio show. They're playing our content for their friends and family. They're playing it in their workplaces, and their coworkers, I'm getting this direct feedback. Their coworkers have never heard some of the stuff that we're talking about, Robert. And none of it is new, but they don't know that it's happening. And so, I don't know.
Okay. Well, I don't know either, but what I do know, I can tell you, is very simple. This is a repeat of Obama. I mean, they're going for it, right? There's no question that the progressive left, because there really is no more left, right? It's the extreme part of the left. I mean, you've got Joe Biden falling asleep in Maui when he's talking to the survivors in Maui. I mean, how embarrassing is that now? And Joe Biden, once upon a time, even though he is a absolutely flagrant liar to a scale I've never seen on most politicians. Yeah, I finished second in my class. Which class was that? Kindergarten? But the Scoop Jacksons, the Sam Nunns, the blue dog Democrats that would be moderately left of center are gone. The party, and we made this argument in 2020 when AOC was, making her run and well, she wasn't running for president, but Bernie was, and AOC was ascending, right? That kind of thing.
Right.
Is that Joe Biden was going to be beholden to the people that got him elected, which was the extreme left of the party. And lo and behold, that's what's driving the agenda here. Yeah. But I want to go back to this culture war thing. So of all of these things, to you, I just want your opinion, which is the most egregious of all these areas? Because there's the attacks in so many areas.
Oh gosh. Golly.
Don't think too hard. Come on. This is like a Rorschach test. I want a quick answer. Don't think. Just answer.
I think the Supreme Court, I think the attacks on the Supreme Court and the legitimacy of our legal system is going to be the thing that has the greatest effect, has the greatest opportunity to really harm Americans. I think people have known for a long time that they can't really trust the news media. And it's easy enough to get other sources, right? Like you can go find other places to get your information. You can go to podcasts, you can do whatever. But, like Lord Redic and I, as an example, are the victims of a woke judicial system. Really long story short, we had a case in Vermont that went all the way to the Vermont Supreme Court, and they ruled against us in favor of the city of Burlington. And they literally, I am not exaggerating. I am not being hyperbolic, which I love to do. I love to get all whatever.
You mean like you're doing now?
Right now, okay? So I love exaggerating and being dramatic, but the court literally said in their opinion, yeah, the city of Burlington is doing something illegal, but we're going to allow it against you anyway, and we're ruling in favor of the city. And it totally screwed us over. And that I know of at least 2 other cases where they did that. So I think the attack on the courts is absolutely the most dangerous.
And I agree it's dangerous. I would actually go to the lowest common denominator is the attack on law and a nation of laws, because laws, I mean, I agree with you, but to me it's we're a nation of laws. And if you want to radically transform society, you go after the laws because that's the last line of defense, and therefore you go after the people that enforce the laws, i.e. law enforcement. We are getting the high sign from Lord Benjamin. We have to go to break. Folks, you are listening to Of the People with Robert Chernin and Ericka Redic, and we will be right back.